I know. Let's talk about the tanking season, right? Is this a tank season or is it not a tank season? And that's for the fans, right? Like that's more for the fans because we know the players, the coaching staff. No one's losing games on purpose, right? I mean, that's not
Right.
physically possible. But as a fan, right? I mean, we're 1-1 now, or 1-2. Sorry, you personally, as a fan of the Seattle Seahawks, what would you? I guess going forward, what do you want? Is this the type of team you want? Hey, we win 7-10, cool. Or would you be like, oh fuck it, we're 1-17, which I don't think we'll go 1-17. We're 3-14, we get the first pick, or would you rather go like 7-10?
Well, 7-10, or go like 3-14. I'd rather
Yeah,
go 3-14
because this is not a team like look. This is not going to be a 10-17, right? At best, it's 7-8-9 wins. 7-8-9 at the absolute best.
At that point, what I really hope for, if this team is, my choices are for them to be okay and be 7-10, or be bad and win 3-4 games. I'm taking 3-4 games. Obviously, within those 3-4 games, I'm hoping for some development of our young corners, development of the offensive line. Hopefully, like, not too much of anger from DK Metcalf, or like not too much of a give up by certain guys, because there are guys like a DK Metcalf of the world, right? Mm-hmm. And who will probably get frustrated eventually, even if he just gets stats when we're losing a lot of games. And Tyler Lockett, he might not be vocal about it, but he might get frustrated because he's used to winning games, going to playoff games, and competing. So I don't know, obviously how it's going to all play out if they do lose 10, 11, 12 games. But I do know that if I had to pick between missing the playoffs by 3 games or just losing 14 games, I'd pick losing 14 games. Give me Bryce Young. Give me CJ Stroud, however you say it. Yeah. And let's let the rest of these guys develop this year. And it sounds so pessimistic because we just came off a shitty loss. But the Falcons, it probably tells you, it tells us a little, at least enough to know this team's not going to compete at a high level this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you here because I see where you're coming from. But here's my problem with that mindset, because I think if we win 2-3 games, we have a huge and much bigger problem than just a quarterback, right? I think the problem is here if we can, because with Geno Smith, like if you watch that game and you think Geno Smith he's not the solution, but he's not the problem, right? Like he's not the actual problem with the football team is that we have Geno Smith at quarterback. We have a lot more problems than that. So if we go 3-14, that means we need a serious rebuild. If we go 7-10, I feel like we might be 1 or 2 pieces away and tweaking things away. That's what scares me about 3-14 and 2-15 and 4-13, right? That means you're far away. You're not a 1 or 2 draft picks away. You're not a couple pieces away. When we saw the Philadelphia Eagles last year, we're 10-7, I believe, and went to the playoffs. I'm not saying we're going to go 10-7, but then they had 3 first-round draft picks, and they were able to go get a wide receiver by trading one of those draft picks, drafted 2 other guys. They had a bunch of second-round picks. They retooled, and they look like they might be the class of the NFC. I'm not saying that's where we are, but that's what just worries me about if we're a 3-14 team. Is like, are we 2-3 years away? Because I think I don't want to be 2-3 years away.
Yeah, we're 2 years away. I mean, my other thought is you got to look at teams like, I don't know, the Jacksonville Jaguars now, right? Mm-hmm. They looked awful last year, but Urban Meyer was a shit show. But they got Trevor Lawrence, their number 1 pick. They got another number 1 pick last year, 2 years in a row. And now they start off the year, 2-1, and they're beating teams like the Chargers, and they're looking very competent. They look like they're probably
that's a great point. That's a very good example.
But that's
now, look,
why,
if we could get Trevor Lawrence, I would be like, he's the best prospect. I mean, I would be all for take.
Okay, yes, but that does not how it always works, right?
I know.
And Trevor Lawrence might not become the next Aaron. It might never win a Super Bowl. It might not. There might be Bryce Young. These whole prospect, like the best prospects since this guy, blah blah blah. It's not always how it works out. The best quarterbacks in our history, like of our lifetime right now, were like Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was, yes, the best prospect. And then you had Aaron Rodgers, who was like
mid-tier
draft. Yeah. And Tom Brady, was a 6th-round pick. So
and Patrick Mahomes also middle of a draft, 10th 11th pick. And just to go off that point there real quick, I actually do like what you said a little bit here, because I'm gonna just use an example of a 3-0 team right now, and that's the Miami Dolphins, right? Tua, who was at quarterback last year and the year before, I mean, he got benched multiple times. People didn't know if he's the future. All of a sudden, you rebuild that team for 1 or 2 years. You use your draft picks wisely. You go get a weapon or two, and you get the right head coach, which I think we do have the right head coach. I know a lot of people get upset at Pete, but he's proven he can do it before. I don't know if he's going to stay long enough to do it again. But you get a couple things, and all of a sudden you can turn it around quick. So, yeah, sometimes good draft capital is what matters.
Yeah, and one thing that we got to understand, and now Russell Wilson defenders, do not get angry at this comment. I've had it with Twitter and the people on Twitter who get upset when we root against Russell Wilson. Let me just one more time explain.
Now you know how I feel the last couple years.
Let me explain. No, it's not about that. It's not about the person. Let me explain how football works. When you make a trade and the other team gives you a draft pick, okay? Like I want you to follow along, George. I know you know how this works, but I want you to follow along.
All right, I'll pretend I'm one of those who doesn't understand. All right.
So we traded for the Broncos. The Broncos gave us their first round draft pick next year for Russell Wilson, right? So wherever they land in the draft order, we get that pick. So
how does the draft order work, Sammy?
The more games you lose, the better pick you get. So
is there a lottery system like the NBA?
Let me finish this. No,
you told me to act like this.
No, I didn't say act dumb. People aren't that stupid. Like, if the Broncos win 2-3 games, it's going to be a top 5 pick. If they win 4 or 5 games, it'd be a top 5 pick. So yes, you should be rooting against Russell Wilson, not the human being. You don't have to call him corny. You don't have to say, I hate him as a person, on the field, off the field, none of that stuff. You should be rooting for him to lose every single game this year, because even if the Seahawks, or let's just say the Seahawks are bad and we get the 6th pick in the draft, if we also have the 5th or 6th pick of the draft from the Broncos, the Seahawks might have a turnaround potential in a year to a year and a half with good speed. So this is why I think especially like the Seahawks future's not so bleak, right? Like they have 2 draft picks potentially that could be really good. So unfortunately, I hate to say this, it's about to start soon. I'd rarely ever say this, but go 49ers tonight.
I know. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people might be like, but no, you're right. You know, as they say, I guess the best way to say it is his misfortune is our reward.